Welcome everyone. Let me first say hello and I, Shazia Sheikh from PharmaState Academy will be your host for today. As we all know, PharmaState Academy has recently launched Humans of Pharma. Humans of Pharma will catch your pharma stories on career, inspiring pharma journeys, current affairs you might miss because of the busy schedule, and last but not least, the books you should definitely know. Today, we bring you a collection of pharma stories, experiences, and opinions that are just waiting to be told. This is a must watch for anyone interested in pharma culture, what it was like in the past, and what the future may hold. This is the first episode of Pharma Journey Series Direct Dil Se, where we will be having a heart-to-heart discussions with pharma leaders. In this particular episode, we will learn about the journey of someone who is not from a pharma background but has made a name for himself in the pharma industry, as well as about his exemplary progress in not giving up on his learning and overcoming challenges head on. So, I extend my warm welcome to Pravin Virkud, sir. Sir has been associated with the pharma industry for over 40 years. He makes brand manager, product managers understand and interpret the data provided by prescription research agencies, which is collated from the live prescription generation. Praveen sir has helped teams to do SWOT AP analysis with action plans that give a competitive edge. He has helped the pharma marketing team to make strategic decisions like creating blue oceans. He was the past president of SMRC and also been associated with the leading B schools as a visiting faculty. Although there is a lot to say, it will likely take the entire time. Thank you, Praveen sir, to be part of Humans of Pharma.
Thank you, Shazia. Thanks for inviting me for this session. I'm
Thank you.
honored for it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's get this conversation started. To begin with, how are you, Praveen sir?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Then starting today, we really wanted to know more about your childhood and your family background. Please let us know.
Yes. Shazia, I have come from the middle class family. In the way back when I was in 70s, completed my matriculate servicing. I was doing my college, and suddenly there was a need for my family to get a support financially. So I thought of working myself and doing my own studies also. And I started my career with Indian Market Research Bureau. It's then the one of the biggest institute which was known for consumer research study in India, and which was a branch of Hindustan Thompson Association. And the blueprint creator also, by my fortune, was Professor Chitta Mitra, who created it. And then later on, I became a hand-holding person with him. He treated me as a youngest brother of his till he's alive here in when I was associated with SMSRC at the last. So when I started my career with IMRB, I was there with almost 7 to 9 years almost, you can say. And in the 8th year or 9th year period, I was suffering from jaundice. And during that period only, Professor had launched CMARC, which was a prescription research study in India, which was sponsored. I'll say sponsored only because the entire finance was provided by one pharma company, which was known as Glaxo. And this also is a story for the industry to know, because Professor Mitra, who was during those period was associated with IIM Calcutta, and Mr. Tarun Gupta, Professor Tarun Gupta, who was a best friend of his, he was a marketing director in Glaxo. He requested Professor Chitta Mitra that as you're going to Harvard, can it look for something which can be used by Glaxo here in India to create some marketing edge in the pharmaceutical industry? Because during those periods, Glaxo was number 4th company by sales turnover, and Glaxo was not doing that good. During those periods, Sarabhai was the one leading company and doing very well. So when he came back to India, he said, yes, abroad, there is a prescription research which is being carried out. And that's what, if you want, you can consider for. Mr. Gupta said, I want to go ahead for this. You give me your put-ups, what exactly we should do and how we should move ahead. But initial period, as he was associated with IIM Calcutta, he could not spare his own time. He requested his one colleague, Mr. Bandopadhyay, to go in the field and meet some doctors and revert back. But Bandopadhyay could not succeed in explaining things, the importance of prescription research to those doctors. And in accordance, he confirmed to Professor, I don't think it is possible. And Professor communicated the same thing to Mr. Tarun Gupta. It looks difficult. But Tarun Gupta knew Professor Mitra very well personally. He said, did you visit yourself or you made somebody to visit on your behalf? He said, no, I was tied up. So I had requested my colleague to visit some doctors in Calcutta and know the backgrounds. He said, no, I want you to go visit and let me get a feedback once again. And later on, Professor met around 8 to 9 doctors in Calcutta. He interviewed, he had a discussions with them, and he realized that here in India, doctors give a treatment to the patient when they start listening the complaint of the patient. Whereas in abroad, they identify the diagnosis first and then decide what is to be given a prescription to the patient. So he narrated this story to Professor Tarun Gupta. This is a scenario. How do you want me to do? He said, it is your prerogative. You have to decide how to move ahead, but I want this study to be carried out for Glaxo. And then the journey started for prescription research in India. And during that period, I was in IMRB, but CMARC Bombay office was headed by somebody then. He was managing for 1.5 years period, but things were not moving the way he wanted to move ahead. And during that period, Glaxo had given one project for them to carry out by CMARC. And as I said that I was suffering from jaundice, I was requested by that friend of mine who was Mr. Satish Joshi, who was heading Bombay office. He said, Pravin, can you come and have the interviews session? What is that ad hoc assignment there? So I visited to the hotel where Professor used to stay. And then Satish gave me a briefing. And while the briefing period, he said, we do not entertain anybody who is associated with any other market research organization. And now I'll start the briefing of the project. When he said it, so I said, sorry, Satish, you just mentioned anybody associated with market research is not entitled. So in that parameter, I don't fit in this. So you please allow me to go. Professor just looked at me. He said, please wait. We'll see that later on. And he asked Satish to start the briefing. After the briefing was over, Professor asked me to sit and asked me, I'm interested to somebody who can join hands with me. So would you like to join with us? I was having a continuous job with IMRB. I said, I already have the jobs to complete, so I cannot say anything right now. He said, you take your own time and meet me later on. So Professor used to come every 3 monthly or 4 monthly to Bombay. He said, when I come next, I will like to meet you again. And during that period, my boss in IMRB, Mr. Bharat Pandya, who was there, who knew me, he also knew Mr. D.K. Shetty, then who was my senior there in IMRB. And we both on the same day met Professor in the hotel to have an interaction with him. And Professor decided we want both of them to be joining CMARC. He allowed us to decide who will be the boss. I said, Shetty is already my boss here. I don't mind working under him. And my journey started with CMARC then. And it was basically a field assignment, what I took up in the initial period. But I was having a background of commerce. I was more keen in statistics and analysis. So I developed this skill. I started learning how to convince the doctor to come on the panel. And there I succeeded. And when I succeeded getting the doctors recruited on the panel, I had a more inclination to understanding what exactly CMARC does in this prescription research data collection and how it is reported to the industry and what is the insights. So I started looking into the presentation, what Professor used to create. I used to understand that. And I started a keen zeal for understanding it more better day in, day out. And I once told professor from this field thing, I would like to shift towards a client servicing side. He said, why? I said, the thing what you do, I'm also in the statistics, analytical things. So if you feel it right, I would like to join the hands there. And at the later stage, I started my service to the client servicing side. And I become a client servicing person for the CMARC in Bombay. So during those days, there were very few clients who was, until say you can say up to 79, 80, this service was exclusive service to Glaxo. So almost you can say around 10 years, Glaxo exclusively utilized this prescription research study in India. And I'm proud to say there was somebody in the marketing there. He once told us, today, whatever is Glaxo is here at this stage is more because the prescription research support what he received from CMARC for over the years. And the proud note what he received from that gentleman, Mr. Kanwar, his name was. So that's the thing. And when things were on, Mr. Tarun Gupta was also heading that association there. The things were continuing. And then one fine day when Tarun Gupta left, after that, GSK felt it, they cannot keep spending the money what they have been spending it on prescription research. So they requested us to think of having a syndicated service or something in addition to this. GSK cannot keep supporting. So from 80 onwards, this became a syndicated service to the pharma industry. So we approached to multiple companies and then we started adding more and more companies. So it was the initial period, a huge task for all of us to convince the pharma industry to understand the importance of the prescription research. Why I'm saying it so? Because in 17 and 80s period, the pharma industry was more of a sales oriented rather than the marketing orientation. So changing the total phenomena from sales orientation to marketing orientation, it took a pretty long time. In the initial period of CMARC to get establishment of this syndicated service, which was more difficult for us because professor himself was along with us visiting the clients. There, all the managing directors and owners of the company got convinced and the service was utilized. And I'll say that that was continued for some more period. And the later stage, when the president and vice president started understanding the importance of prescription research, this got started developing and the initiating was started taking by them also. But even today, I don't see below the marketing manager, this service is being that strongly utilized by any company in the pharma industry. So there is still a lot of scope for this service to be understood in nitty-gritty part and understood how to make best use of this for driving the things in today's tomorrow or tomorrow's scenarios too. So that's the thing. And I'm glad that the incidents of IMRV made me to meet professor. And I was there with IMRV for almost 10 years, 9 to 10 years. And my 30 years career, I continued with Professor Chitta Mitra for CMARC. And then later on, when CMARC got divided to CMARC and SMSRC, I spare my last 10 years with SMSRC as a president. So I left as a president as a career there. And the most important part I will like to say, I was a non-pharma person. To get into pharma, it was initially a bit difficult, but it was possible only because I developed the confidence in expressing my importance to the prescription research to the doctors and the kind of questions they kept on raising, which helped me to understand what is the importance of this for the doctor as well as to the industry. And it made me to learn myself certain nitty-gritties which are important for me to understand from the pharma point of view. So when I become a client servicing person, the data what was analyzed, I started looking into it in more mature, more in-depth angle, what you can see. And it made me to learn so many things because there are so many terminologies which I learned on my own after looking through the data. So that's my way forward when I came into it. Yes.
Very well, Praveen sir. Really, with your story, I believe we totally agree that where there is a will, there is a way. Your story is
Yes.
really very inspiring. Though you have covered my second question also, that from a
Okay.
perspective of someone who is not from pharma industry, how things start and how they have progressed over the years.
No, but then
So,
I'll say one more thing here. See,
oh,
if you are having a background of pharma, it doesn't mean that you know everything.
exactly.
What I observed over the years, I've been interacting with multiple people in the pharma industry, from the manager to the product manager level, etc. Every individual who joins newly with the pharma company, he feels that I should put something new for me to show that I have done something here. But every new person coming into the as a product manager or anything, he should first try to understand what is the importance of the product, what he's handling. He cannot try to change the scenario of that base of the product because over the years the product has created its own goodwill. You cannot change overnight. So keeping that in mind, you have to keep supporting that scenario and take forward the things for betterment. These things many a time get missed out and the product goes to haywire. So people who are joining in pharma industry should always keep in mind whatever the product is established, I should see how best I can further improve it and it can be betterment for the product to continue in that line. The life cycle of the product also they should understand. They should remember it and work towards that. I'm saying it why the life cycle? Because in the initial phase of life cycle of a product, in India, obviously, it shows that it handled by more by super specialist. When it comes to the maturity stage of life cycle, it goes in the hands of mass of consulting physician, etc., and the top end of the GPs. And when it becomes a declining life cycle market, it goes into the hands of the GPs and rural. So I will not change the perception of the product, but I will have to handle the product differently through those customer segments. So the segmentation of the product is also equally important for me to drive the product appropriately. I'll just give a supporting here. While our interaction as a syndicated service, when I approached along with Professor Mitra to Pfizer, Dr. Kurian was the heading that marketing there. And that the first meeting professor was having Dr. Kurian, who was a marketing controller then. And one of the presentation professor made a train line showing that Bicozul's train line as well as Cobadex train line. Cobadex was showing an inclination which was positive, showing a train positive growth, whereas Bicozil was showing a plateau to declining kind of a scenario. When he saw that kind of a train, Mr. Kurian made a statement. I'm orbiting the statement what he made it to professor. He said, "Professor, are you showing me Glaxo's bullshit?" For a second, professor got fumbled. He said, "Why he's asking me this? Why he mentioning like this?" Then he said, "Wait, I'll show you something." And he asked somebody to go and bring the ORG IMS. ORG used to give a big booklet where they used to have the entire product sales, etc. When he asked somebody to go there, and that meanwhile he said, "Do you know what is my turnover of Bicosils?" When he raised that question, suddenly professor got the hint what exactly is implying. Because prescription research is not telling you directly about the sales. It tells you what is the perception mapping in the minds of a doctor, the inclination of doctor to prescribe the product. So he said, yes, right now what you are saying, professor, here is the point what I want to communicate to you. Until yesterday, because Jules was managed more by prescription parameter angle, today Cobadex is managing much strongly in the prescription parameter, whereas Bicozil's overall sales will continue to grow because it has become from prescription to OTX. But if you do not get a continuous support for prescription, your overall sales growth rate will come down. When he made this statement, Mr. Kurian said, "Fine, I don't require any more presentation. I'm sold to you product here. Can you help me to get data for some other product of mine? For last 3 years data, as you're having this service for last 10 years. He said, yes, very well. And he got the data from us, he worked on it, and they totally changed the positioning of that product into the market. That was tetracycline, terramycin. So it depends how you read the data, how we interpret the thing, and how you utilize that for the betterment of the products or the company. So this is the way it looks like, and this is the way the people should learn and understand the importance of the prescription research.
Really great. It's like a whole song for us. And this leads to another thing, Praveen sir. How have data statistics and analysis in the pharma industry changed over the years, actually?
Yeah, I just mentioned you that, see, in the initial period of 70s and 80s, the people were more driven by sales orientation. No doubt,
Right.
sales is required. Ultimate sales is important. But for getting that sales from 80 onwards or 90 onwards, you can say it has become more of a marketing orientation. That marketing orientation has to be get developed within the individual. Unless that marketing orientation doesn't get developed, it will not drive that in appropriate parameters, right? And that's an example I just now gave you. If only sales angle, if they would have seen, the sales of Bicozil would have continued, but that would have slowly, gradually declining. The speed of growth would have declined. But they took action to see the prescription also gave a support, and sales continued to keep on raising. And the market growth has taken place because of Cobadex has also added the market there. So entire volume of that therapy has gone up, right? So the marketing orientation has helped the entire therapy as well as the brand within that to get developmental. So this change has taken place slowly and gradually. So from sales orientation to marketing orientation, it started. And that's the reason we say the prescription inclination has started taking place. And it has filtered down from the MD or managing director of the company to owner to president to vice president to manager level or GM level. Below that, it is yes to be, get into the blood of the product manager that strongly. That's what I felt it. And even there are some companies, they have been using our service prescription research for the years, but I doubt how many of them know that thoroughly to utilize the data. There are so many angles one can look into data. Whatever received from the organization, that is a service provider, is not sufficient enough. One can think beyond that and ask for the queries for the service provider and get additional angle. For example, if I see the data and then I don't get a in-depth of the male pattern, male or female, gender angle or the patient age profile angle details, I will not get the full-fledged data analysis done there. So certain queries to be raised by the product manager or group product manager or hierarchies to get in-depth analysis by the service providers to provide them in that line, and which is started taking place. And today, there is a changeover happening. Now again, digitalization is taking place. But entire digitalization, what is for digitalization is important in days to come. But whether entire doctor segment has been doing the things with digital angle, that is also another thing to be noted. So slowly and gradually, both the things to be merged and look in the long run.
Praveen sir, this is really like whenever I listen to you discuss data and statistics, it sounds incredibly simple. Though it is not for me, I know, but yes, it does from when I hear you. Moving on to the final question. What advice would you give to pharma students and recent graduates who want to work in this domain, in this particular domain?
When in 70s, market research was getting developed, and I developed the inclination for working for market research. On the top of it, I had an inclination of analytical mind also in that parameter. So I had that intention to work towards that. And I developed myself to look into the depth of it and then try to work on it. Today, the so many institutes which are creating MBAs on business management, MBAs in marketing management, MBAs in finance, and so many angles. So MBAs in HR and all. These are all angles which are necessarily required by the pharma industry. Everybody in the different angle can work with the pharma industry. But when you're looking into the details of the thing, what you are aligned for, if you do not know the things thoroughly well, it doesn't help you. You can't be a superficial knowing that thing. I'll just give an example. I knew so many MBAs who joined from institution to pharma companies, but when they come in reality to work in, they have that puzzle that how to look into the same data in different angles. Because the data can, one figure can be seen in multiple angles, provided you know the what is the best thing to be utilized for your product to drive it. You need not look into what is the competitor is only doing it. That will be giving you one clue. But beside that, what is your SWOT? That your SWOT, if you know it well, then you can be scoring over your competitors also. If that is possible, then and then only you succeed in your life. So it is always necessary for every person who joined as a product manager or in pharma market for any position, whatever project or whatever job he takes over, he should first should have full-fledged consideration to put in hard efforts. One, he should look into the depth of the thing, whatever he's working for. Day in, day out, he should think what is to be betterment for that product from the communication parameters. Because see, sales and marketing, this goes in hand in hand, I'll say. But when you are selling the product to the doctor by giving a gift, etc., it will be a more a temporary phenomenon. But if you create a mind perception among the doctor for the product, that means this is a specific condition in which this is scoring over in this specific disease, then this is the right product for you to prescribe to such patient. If that is there in the mind of a doctor, which will help him to drive the product for a longer period, rather than gifting him or getting the doctor for abroad or something, that will be only a temporary phenomenon. So every time you should know how to drive the product. Now I'll give another example. When I'm detailing the product, many times what happens, I see the competitors, visual aids, etc., and I consider, okay, this is the thing what we should look for. But if the product when I'm looking at, if that product is of a super specialty oriented, I should talk more of a diagnosis there rather than the condition of the patient there. Normally, medical teams in the pharma companies, they do not allow you to use that complaints, symptoms, etc. to put in visual aids, right? So the diagnoses are more important. But when you are creating the visual aids, you can definitely use your complaint symptoms to creating a story building for pulling to us the diagnosis of the product in which it can fit in. So that they should learn how to do it. And for that, it is necessary for somebody who is looking into prescription research to understand the in-depth things about it. See, when I say prescription research also, over the years, we try to put it before the industry. They should divide that into the three parts: physical part, character part, and perceptional part. When I say physical part, we say that how the prescription growth rate taking place in relation to the market growths. Whether I'm doing fast better than the market or I'm lagging behind the market. When I say character of response, we say that whether you are in the right segment, whether you are having the core customer development done, whether you're having going to the right age group of the patient while driving it to the thing, looking into sex of the patient, whether male or female patient or child, whether it is being covered in that parameter, whether you are having a geographically properly balanced, because certain therapies which are more stronger in particular zones. So you have to understand what is the competitors in each zone, differentiating the thing scenario. And the last and most important parameter is the positioning of the product. When I say positioning, I should know the strength of the product molecule in that perception of the diagnosis. So if that is known very well, then I can drive the product faster. Because we say that over the years, what you found, when you look into the data, you can confirm to the client, this product is likely to grow tomorrow or it is not likely to grow tomorrow. And the people is to surprise why I'm saying that, why we are saying that. Because see, today you may see a growth happening But that growth can be managed more by the GP, which is a mass number which exists today in India. So I can manage the volume, but that volume which is supposed to be received from the top end of the specialty, there are weaker, then it will be only a short-term kind of a growth what I'll be representing. But if I am not doing it much better into the product in the segment of specialty, but even then the growth is not reflecting that stronger, then at times we have been raised the question also by the team. I'll give here one example. There was the one company, they had launched a new product into anti-arthritic market, and they were doing good. They were showing a growth internally around 32-35% growth, and then it was growing. But when you look into the data of ours, which was reflecting in second quarter, they were showing a relatively down into the key segment of ortho. And there it was showing a decline over the previous period. And by coincidence, during the presentation of that client, the managing director always used to attend the session. So the marketing manager used to give me a call, Virkud, you have shown me this, but next quarter again, it is showing a further decline. I said, next quarter, we already gave the confirmation where and why you are shown a decline. Because earlier quarter, they had decline in ortho, not because of overall their visiting to the orthos was lesser or something. But while spreading among ortho, they could not keep the kind of focus to the key core customer of orthopedician. And that's why the dilution took place. We said you have to visit your core orthopedician once again, continue with them properly, and also have the spread among the new customers who are also doing it better today. And they started working on it, but obviously it will take some more time. So he said, we'll get fired again this quarter when you're coming and presenting. He said, no, you have the answer. I will tackle that thing. No issue on those. But I said, just now, you just see into this. Instead of looking the data more by quarter over quarter, you look into MAT angle. Until last quarter, the MAT angle was not showing a negative. But this quarter, MAT has shown a negative because you had taken action during last quarter only. It is to be get initiated down the line. It will impact. So you have to know how to see the data. Don't look into only one quarter over next quarter, or don't see current quarter over the corresponding quarter. But keep a track of it by annual angle also. That will help you to understand. And we always used to tell, you should have a tracking of this for 3 parameters. Internal sales, whatever ORG or IQ or whatever data you receive it additionally, and also prescription research. Because whatever internal sales tells you what has happened yesterday, whatever ORG IMS tells you what has happened earlier, and what prescription research data will tell you what is likely to take place tomorrow. So there are 3 different angles you get confirmed through this data. So I should know how to look into each data differently. Every data is important, but I should know how to link that and understand that to put it before the marketing heads or to before the sales heads to drive it. So this is more important, how to link the parameters, link the data, and then put it before the team to drive it. Most importantly, what I also observe, many a time, people do not give that kind of importance what is necessary to the field personnel, which is equally important because they are the real driver. Many times what happens, the product manager creates the visual aid, etc., which is done very well. But product manager's job doesn't get over there. His job gets over only when the things are implemented appropriately down the line by the field personnel. So that is also equally important. So if your visual aid creation is good, that doesn't mean your product will only do good. You have to see the visual aid creation is being detailed appropriately by your field personnel or not. I'll give you another example here. While creating a visual aid, you should not put multiple diagnoses there to drive it. There should be a focus while doing anything. Any project, anything in the life also, I should have specific focus. Anybody individual should have proper focus. Tomorrow I have to achieve this. How to achieve, what are the different parameters, I should be very clear on it. But if I think I have to take 3-4 things I have to achieve, it is very difficult to manage. So in the same line, while creating a visual aid, there should be a focus to the key diagnosis where the product should be driven by them. And that should be the message for the newcomers to learn about and work throughout for their betterment in the life. Thank you.
This really is a brilliant advice, Praveen sir. Really, I believe many freshers and students even will benefit from this, surely. Really.
Thank you.
Sadly, this leads to an end. But before that, as title suggests, direct dil se. So a dil se question for you. It is not related to the pharma journey, but your favorite childhood memory. Just a little bit. I know a little out of your pharma journey, but we would like to know about that.
Uh, the first thing where I got fired by Professor Mitra while I was making a first presentation before Sun Pharma, and Mr. Dilip Sangvi was attending the session. I was doing a figure reading myself, and I was fired by professor there and there in front of Dilip Sangvi and others. So that's a memory what I have in my life, and that has given a total turnaround in my life also to change myself, because that made me to think differently, made me to understand why he raised that point. Because see, unless if I do not understand the product basket appropriately or therapy appropriately, I cannot interact with the team members in details. For figure reading, anybody can do, right? But that changed my entire life. So I'll say in the entire pharma industry, that's a turning point for me to change myself in the getting myself accepted more to the pharma industry.
Great one. Adding a little more to that, if we want to know about your childhood, anything related to your family and childhood, how it has been with you.
As I said that I'm from the middle class family, but I had very good memories because my parents has taken good care of us, all myself, my sisters, and my brother. And I'll say one more thing here. Again, here Professor Mitra comes in picture. Uh, I have a family of my parents and four brothers, sisters. That means two sisters and one more brother. And my younger brother, who was in Indian Air Force, who retired and now in the bank. While he was in Air Force, it was a coincidence. I used to travel to Bangalore and Hyderabad. And during those periods, I was in the field. I was hand controlling Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Chennai and Bombay. I mean, Maharashtra, West region. So whenever I used to go there, I used to take a permission for one additional day, and professor used to grant that, yes, Pravin, you can go to Trivandrum and go and meet your brother and come back. So that's one more thing I'm very much to remember about in my lifetime, because that was a time when somebody who is far off from the family needed a support once in a while, which I used to go and give it to my younger brother there in that.
This is really a great one. Really great to know this. It's the end. Excellent lessons learned from your experience, sir. Once more, many thanks, Praveen, sir. Really.
No. Thank you very much.
And
Thanks for asking me to come for this interview. I hope this
pleasure
will
is
help
all
to
mine.
the good students who are just joining to pharma industry, and wish them all the very best in the career of theirs.
Thank you. And this leads to an end. And everyone who is watching, I hope you enjoy this episode. Reach out if you have any suggestion for future episodes by connecting with us on LinkedIn and other social media channels at Humans of Pharma or by email us at humansofpharma@pharmastate.com. Thank you. Have a great day.